We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
What happens when over 100 people who are serving men, some for decades, some since last month, finally end up in the same room together? Because something important is happening right now, and it's getting more urgent by the day. We're living in a moment where the conversation around men, masculinity, and mental health doesn't seem to be optional. The stakes are higher, the need is clearer, and more people, men and women, are stepping forward to support men in doing deeper, more honest work. But here's the thing, that work a lot of the time is happening in silos, different approaches, different philosophies, different generations, often disconnected from each other, sometimes even opposed to each other. And what happens when you bring all those voices into one space? That's what the Big Tent Summit is about. Now, in its second year, the Big Tent is gathering of leaders, coaches, therapists, facilitators, people of all genders who are committed to serving men. It's not about agreement, but about engagement. It's about holding a big, more inclusive conversation about what men are needing right now. In this episode, I sit down with the three founders, Chris Kyle, George Kansas, and Tim Wade, to talk about what they're seeing on the ground. We get into the evolution of men's work. We get into the diversity of voices entering the space and why the tension that shows up when those voices meet might actually be the most important part. This isn't about landing on one definition of masculinity. It's about creating a space big enough to hold all of it and meet this moment. Welcome to the Mankind Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Mankind Podcast, this show where we break the molds of modern manhood to prove that there is more than one way to be a man. Today, I get to chill out with some dudes that I've known for a little while, and at least one dude that I've known for a long while. Chris Kyle, George Kansas, and Tim Wade, the founders of the Big Tent Summit. Guys, say hello. Tim first so that we can start to track voices.
Yes. Good to be here, Bison. So great to chill with you guys, as you said. So happy to be here. Can't wait to get into it.
Thank you. George, say hello.
George Kansas here. Hello, Boyson. Great to be here. Great to be in space with you again. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And Christopher, say hello.
Hey, good to be here with you, Boyson, and with my partners in crime, George and Tim. So happy to be on the podcast with you.
There you go. So now you got to be tracking voices. So going backwards, Chris Kyle is a teacher, coach, and entrepreneur with 30 plus years of experience helping individuals and organizations find purpose and amplify their impact. He's the co-founder of the Big Tent Summit and Collective. Yeah, the Collective, right? And the founder and CEO of the Launch Academy, which is when I got to know him, was pre-Launch Academy. I've known him for a long ass time. He's the co-creator of the Conscious Men's Summit and the Emergence Men's Retreats, and a certified leader in the Mankind Project. He's been leading men's trainings and guiding men's circles for over 2.5 decades. George Kansas has been leading men in personal and professional work for nearly 40 years. He is the co-founder of the Big Tent Summit and Collective. He's a 3-time cancer survivor, a triathlete, an attorney, an author of 10 books, a keynote speaker, workshop leader, and a grandfather of 3. He leads transformation by blending spirituality, conscious communication, and leadership insights to help impact-driven entrepreneurs find their purpose, voice, and power. That's pretty cool, George. And Tim Wade, last but certainly not least, is a master relationship coach, an author, and a speaker dedicated to helping men reclaim their masculinity, purpose, and love. Following his own life-changing divorce, Tim founded Lion-Hearted Living to guide men toward thriving as life partners and leaders Through destination retreats, courses, and one-on-one programs, he teaches the essential skills men need to create lives of meaning and connection. He is also a co-founder of the Big Tent Summit and Collective. We've got like a good 120 years of men's work experience sitting here in the room with us. So, screw the past. What's on the cutting edge? What are you guys seeing out there in the landscape with the work in the Big Tent Collective and the work just kind of seeing a whole lot of what's going on in the space? And I'm going to go back to Tim and start with you. So what are you seeing?
Well, thanks. First of all, being, I think, the eldest in the room, my initiation into men's work was back in 1992 with the Lost Dogs Council in Los Angeles. Brought in Robert Bly and Michael Mead and a bunch of other guys. Wow. And there were 200 men in the room or more, and 500, I don't know. And that was the first time I ever had anything to do, mythopoetic, the whole deal. And flash forward all these years, and I think we're on the cusp or the beginning of a real resurgence, because that kind of went away for a while after that. And so what I'm very excited about is that in the last 15 years, how it has come into the conversation. What is men's work? What is healthy or positive masculinity? Beyond just the, hey, men have screwed everything up and we wish they would go to another planet. It is now a very positive conversation in many circles. So what I see is a growing awareness, which is one of the reasons we started the Big Tent, was to support having this be a global conversation. And there are countries that are ahead of us that we get to look towards, like Britain and other places that I think are already making it policy around positive masculinity. So
thank you.
That's what I'm excited about, is that it's getting stronger and better.
Thank you. George, go to you.
So Boyson, you know the expression, when all you have is a hammer, everything you see is a nail. I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with that it's possible that I see it this way because this is the space I'm in. At the same time, what I'm encountering more and more, as the three of us go out there and speak for the space we're creating with the Big Tent and the Collective and the Summit, I'm encountering men who are deeply, deeply, deeply desiring to expand their capacity to hold the space, the safe spaces where boys and men can explore what they're called here for, not just, not to diminish the deep explorations we do around the campfire, because that's super important. And there's something that gives us access to that is even, in my opinion, even more important globally, because it means, what do we do when we go out the door to make the world a safe place? What do we do when we go outside to make sure that the women in our space feel safe, that the children in our space feel safe, that we are safe in this world of global crisis, with men committing suicide, even death by suicide by men, 4 out of 5 men, things like this. We're endeavoring to create a conversation that makes it safer for all of us. And what I see for the future is more men seeing how critically important that conversation is, and making it safe for that guy who they know who would never set foot in a room like that. Then making it safe for that guy to come. The Mankind Project has been doing this for decades. We're taking that. We want to take that even into the nooks and crannies where those guys who are struggling, who are so afraid to step into that space. That's the world I see. Yeah.
Excellent. And Chris, how about you?
Yeah, great stuff with Tim and George. And I think, and Boyson, we've had sort of the similar conversation over the years, which is great. Always like checking in every 5 years. Where are we at? And I would say, and I've talked about this in other podcasts, I would say that we're right now have just entered into what I'd consider the third wave of men's work, or healthy masculinity out in the culture. And that first wave is the mythopoetic. That's Robert Bly, Mead, and Hillman launching it. Right. And I just like Tim in 1984, I did a day with Hillman, Mead, and Bly in San Francisco. Wow. And it was powerful. It was amazing. And then that wane, as Tim said, that wane. And then the second wave, I would call it the embodied men's movement. It was then about David Data and John Wineland and all that, where it's like, get into your body, get present, be present out in the world. And that's a pathway to being a powerful man. And it was a lot more around body practices, healthy living, presencing, bringing more spirituality in rather than the mythopoetic and the archetype stuff, which is still powerful, but it kind of waned. And then the final wave that I think we're in right now is what I'd call kind of I don't really have a great term for it, but it's basically expansion in all of the different avenues that men can get support. So you could call it the kind of explosion into the nooks and crannies that George is saying. So that means people creating programs just for divorced guys going into divorce, just for addiction, men and their kit fathers, front row dads, and what Tim does and all. And we didn't see that before for so long. MKP, the Mankind Project, was kind of the only game in town for 20, 30 years. And that was powerful, and it was so helpful for a lot of men. And now there's so much out there. So it's this kind of diversity explosion that there's so many ways to access the work as men. And I'd say what I'm learning about and what we've been learning around talking to leaders in the space who've come to the Big Tent, leaders and practitioners and professionals, is that they're realizing really in the last just 5 years is men are much more willing to invest in themselves now. Meaning I'm going to spend more money on me. I'm going to work on my personal development. I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to get a therapist, breaking down all those walls of it shows weakness to be in therapy, or that I would never tell my friends that I'm seeing a therapist or a coach. And now that's like more mainstream. It's more like, yeah, that's awesome. You're doing good work. You're working to be a better man. That's a sea change just in the last 5 years. Absolutely. And that's where I think attracting men into kind of programs and things is easier than it was. And I'm still not as easy as women who are investing in themselves a lot more than men. Yeah.
Sure. Can I go too? Do I get to answer this question also?
Yeah.
I love this. Yeah. I love where we started. I love how it kind of came around. I really heard the hammer and nails and kind of idea and the nooks and crannies, and then this kind of diversity and explosion into all these spaces and the acceptance of more ways of approaching this thing. And then the other thing that I want to put out there is like, I've been watching, so I didn't start in the mythopoetic. I started in the academic space, study of men and masculinities, right? And gender studies and feminist studies and all of that kind of stuff. And the other really cool, I think, evolutionary thing that I'm seeing, and I think the Big Tent is expressing this, is the integration of things that didn't used to touch into a much more holistic understanding of what we're actually talking about. So we're looking at men and manhood and masculinity and all of these conversations from not only multidimensional but multi-layered. So it's like on the personal level, interpersonal level, all the way up to a cultural and institutional level. How are these things getting? So manhood is my personal experience. Manhood is also a political position and a social position. Manhood is also a function. Manhood is also, a changing and evolving thing on its own. And I think the Big Tent is really kind of saying, hey, what's in the space? Let's all come in and see what's happening here together. So I honor you guys for that. So great. And aside from the joke, y'all made a joke that, are we going to tell him that it was because we lost a bet? How did this Big Tent Summit get going? So last year was the first one. I was there at the inaugural Big Tent, been part of the collective for a year. We'll be returning to Denver this coming May for the Big Tent. How did this come to be? Chris, why don't we go back?
I'll kick it off. Yeah, I'll kick it off. So we lost a bet. No, I'm kidding. First of all, let's talk about briefly what it is. So the Big Tent Summit is an in-person gathering for leaders and practitioners, thought leaders in the men's work and healthy masculinity space to come together to shape the future of men's work. And to just dig in, to find ways to collaborate, to support each other. We've been calling it, I don't really like the terms, but we're calling it really the industry conference for anything related to working with boys and men out there. So we're continuing to attract all kinds of different folks, from podcasters and authors, as researchers, as well as coaches, workshop leaders, or organizations like Mankind Project and leaders there. So that's what it is. And it's really meant to inspire and support those, the leaders. And we like to say, we're acting and holding, we're the holders of the holders. So that the holders, all those leaders, get to have a space where they come in, and we're supporting creating the container and the space for people to connect and go deep and learn from each other. So that's this Big Tent Summit.
Yeah. And by the way, it's not just men.
And thank you. That's the Big Tent. And so it's all genders are welcome in this. It's the only caveat is that you're committed to working with boys and men. It might not even be your main thing, but that it's a passion. You're actually on the ground doing it, or writing books or podcasting on it. So yes, all are welcome. I like to say, people get this in indigenous cultures in most parts of the world. There was the men's kiva or men's tent. There was the women's kiva or the women's tent. And then there was always the big tent, the big TP. And that's where everybody came together to solve the challenges of the village or the community. So we've built the Big Tent.
Cool.
And so how it came about, and then I want to hear George and Tim's, take on their history in it. But I just turned 60 in January, and about 18 months ago, I could feel 60 coming. And so I got to ask myself the big question that I asked in my early 40s too, is, okay, what does the next 15 years of my life look like? Of my work life and giving of my time and energy? And I really realized that even though I've been doing men's work for so long, it's always been kind of a side thing in addition to my entrepreneurial endeavors, my businesses. And I just really realized that for 30 years, the passion, almost like that destiny path, was really about supporting the healing and growth of men. And then the purpose, it felt very purposeful. And then what was missing is my money or my work all lined up. And so I said, I'm lining all of that up. I'm going to let go of, other things and businesses that I'm doing to really focus on that. And then the second question was, well, then what's needed? What's needed in the world? I didn't necessarily want to just create another program for men. I still lead the MKP weekends, which is amazing. And so it was like, okay, nobody has really gathered the leaders in the space. There was one event that happened, the Evolving Men's conference that happened in 2010, and that never happened again. But it was that
to Jason Gaddis anyway. I mean, we love
exactly.
Jason.
Thank you, Jason, for being the inspiration of that. And I attended, and Boyce was there, and a bunch of other people, again, men and women. So that was the genesis of sort of my sitting and thinking, well, we haven't done it since then, and nobody's done it consistently. Having a regular annual conference. And I said, that's it. I feel like right now I can be a convener of this. And I knew in that moment that I didn't want to do it alone. Yeah. And that part of my path and my learning journey is to start collaborating more and lean into partnership, and not do it the Chris Kyle way. And just, I've had my own businesses for so long. It's sort of like, oh, okay, I just run the show. And Tim and George might say, sometimes I do just, power through and run the show. Try not to. I'm trying to be more diplomatic, but bottom line is, then I had conversations. I started having conversations. Some of the first conversations, this is where I'll do the handover to Tim and George to talk about this idea.
So can I jump in?
Yeah.
That was great. That was a great introduction to the whole idea. So I do want to put a plug in, and that is, in 2015, I attended the New Warrior Adventure Weekend. Somebody said, I think you would really like this, because I was just coming back around to leaning into men's work at that point, based on the heels of, I was right in the middle of the divorce when I attended. And it was absolutely, I have to say, for me, life-changing. It's one of those pinnacle milestones. And so thank you to Mankind Project, because it set me on a course that has changed my life for the better in so many ways. So that being said, when I was talking to someone who said, "Oh, you do men's work, don't you?" And it was just in 2024, and you should talk to Chris Kyle, because he's doing something really. He's putting some stuff together, and you and I had met Chris briefly a year before at another conference, and we had said hello, hello, goodbye, and so I had no idea what he was up to. Got on the phone with him, and I have to say, his excitement, his vision, his purpose was electric. And I don't know if you remember this, Chris, but I was a full body yes to this idea on that first call within about half an hour.
Yeah.
So I love it when things line up like that with this synchronicity and all of that. And so for me, it was the next, it just like Chris said, it was kind of the next thing. It was the next evolution of like, okay, I've been doing all sorts of things with men. But what's the bigger vision? And I have to say that it was completely in line. And the next thing you know, we put a stake in the ground. Mm-hmm. And I said to Chris, you know, who you should talk to is George.
That's right.
You guys Chris are doing this well.
Chris is like, I'm talking to him already next week.
You can't make
exactly. It's already scheduled. It was already scheduled.
And I'm like, oh, perfect.
And then a week later, when I'm talking to Chris, I said, you know who really has to be on this conversation is Tim Wade. And Chris said, Tim Wade. Oh, Tim Wade. Yeah. He's on board. He's on. So anyway, that was very funny coherence when everything came.
Yes.
And I'll just add that all of that is mostly true. And I had said to Chris, I said, look, I've been coaching people, humans, men, women, everything for 35 years. And I'm really ready to influence people at scale. And the way I see that is, and the holder of the holders is our brand and my wife and my business. And I said, that's what I really want us to do. Who's out there? There are so many people leading the men. Who's holding them? And it really was a thread that we all really, it was running in all of us. And I would say that that thread was running in all of us. And when we brought those threads together, that's when the tapestry started to unfold, because we realized, where do we put these people? There isn't a place where they all go. There isn't a trade organization. There's no AAA or American Cardiology Association of men's work. So, okay, I guess we'll have to create one. And then we said, well, let's get them in a room. And then, as you said, Boyson, when you first introduced us, there's 100 years or so of experience between the three of us. There's some qualifications here to not just invite them into a space and start a conversation, but share something with them and teach some fundamentals and some best practices. And obviously there's a lot for as many people there are leading men's space, there are that many voices, that many flavors of it. And so the three of us also take it upon ourselves to sort of put our ears to the rail and try to hear what's up, so that we can get those voices in the room. And actually, at the first summit, we made some space for some of the less assertive voices to be heard, because they're valuable too. And then just the chemistry that happens in the room is it's pretty magical. Not just we're all transformational leaders, so that's going to happen, but the fact that those voices are adding in and being invited into a conversation that they might not otherwise put their voice into is, I think, super important.
Cool. How is the Big Tent Summit different from some of the other conferences and things that you guys have shown up to in terms of design? I mean, you designed it, you consciously worked on this. So what are some of the distinctions that you've drawn in creating the space?
We have lunch first.
George,
that's probably
first. Does George always lead with a joke? This is
not always.
A lot of times.
That's usually Tim, actually.
That's usually
Tim usually leads with the joke.
I'm restraining myself.
I'll say something quick and then turn it over to Tim and George. Is that, Boyson, I think from the beginning we wanted a kind of an unconference approach.
Yeah.
And that just meaning that we were going to walk this line that I think is sometimes challenging, of it being the gathering of in-person. Well, first of all, you know this, Boyson, I'm in the e-learning space. We could have done this as a virtual summit. I could have done it in my sleep, right? And had people all over the world. We all said, no, this needs to be face-to-face, shoulder-to-shoulder, knees-to-knees. We've got to get in the room together. And I think everybody that was at the first summit appreciated that. But we're walking this line between a kind of a transformational experience, you know, a deeper connection with folks in the room, and a business conference, right? That we're going to talk about our businesses. So, you know, we had some experiential activities that you experienced, Boyson, and we did some special things like on Thursday night, and then the women's fishbowl and all. So we had these cool experiences that made it more than just, okay, talking about my business, let me network with you. That was a part of it, but a nice thread is this sort of transformational or experiential part of the summit.
Nice. Who else has got something on that? What makes it different?
I would say one of the things that's very different about it is we set the tone and the intention right from the beginning that this was going to be not only a big tent for in terms of age, gender, ethnicity, background, experience, all of that it was going to be as diverse as we could make it. And then leave your ego at the door. That this is a place to collaborate, to help, to give, to be generous, and we really set that as a strong intention. And I have to say, I think it was paid off. That's exactly what it ended up being. And you know, we said, hey, it'd be great if we got 40 people, and 50 would be awesome. And we ended up having over 80 people in the room. And so another, you know, thing that said, you're going in the right direction, guys. This is good. So I think that the hunger for it is another thing. It wasn't just, another conference. There was a raising of the hands like, yes, this.
Mm-hmm.
There's one more piece that I think is worth adding, that is we source it from in the room. The conversation is sourced from within the room. The people on stage are attendees first, which feels very important, very different. We don't go set the lineup and say, come on and see these amazing speakers. We source, and we end up having amazing speakers on stage because we're sourcing from the room, from the people on the ground. We're doing the work. They've done the research. They've had the, you know, they've held the men, they've held the boys in those explorations. So it's relevant information. And I think that's a really delicious piece.
Yeah, and I just will add the last piece, Boyson. I know you sensed it in the room too. Is just what makes it different is the fact that this is the first ever gathering of leaders and practitioners, professionals in the men's workspace, so that you have, instead of so many conferences I've been to, which are meant to be entrepreneurial or business owners of any ilk, right? Yeah. That's 90% of them, because they want as many people coming into the room. You do this business, you do that business. Oh, awesome. This is just in the men's workspace. So we know it's a bit of a smaller audience, but we really want to be the global leader in really supporting that audience and being the holders of that audience. So even the discussion in the room is we're all geeking out on, you know, on men's work and what we're doing and healthy masculinity and all the challenges that boys and men are facing. I think that's really important. When you have that focus in the room, it can create more depth in the conversation and more easily finding ways to support each other because you're in the same field, essentially.
Cool. Let's talk. We're almost doing a SWOT analysis here. Let's talk about some of the friction in the room too, because, you know, what you're saying here is that in bringing together a lot of these groups, and this is something that I got to witness and be a part of at the first one, I anticipate it'll be there again, which is part of the reason to go back. Like there was some electricity in the room. And if you're not seeing the heads nodding, right, like you're just listening to the audio, is like all three, like it's like a raised eyebrows and the nods.
I love it. I'm excited about this question, actually.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about some of the electricity, because we really did experience that with the diversity of folks that were in the room.
I'll share this, and then I'm curious to hear what everybody else thinks. I would say that in and of itself, that there's a little bit of friction, a little bit of conflict, a little bit of of disagreement in the space means we're putting the right people in the room. I think that's a great indicator of the quality that people there. It wasn't the Maury Povich show, like just mayhem and
Right,
screaming
yeah.
at each other. It was really lively and robust, and I think that's a healthy thing for any community, let alone one choosing the direction or the voice of a body of work, you know. And so there's that. And then the other thing for me, and this is fascinating because I'm still learning how the younger generations are seeing what manhood means, what masculine means. They're exploring definitions of their own that I don't have a lived reference for, and so I'm curious. That, I mean, as a teacher, I have to be curious, right? So I think for me, one of the biggest things, I mean, I would say for probably 15 years, I've been advocating for this idea of an integrated expression, that a man fully expressed is naturally going to express both his masculine and his feminine, that integration is an indicator of his maturity, his capability of holding himself and the whole range of who he is. Now, I think that is an evolution, and it comes from the polarity conversation that was so popular, not so long ago. And I think that polarity conversation has its own limitations. So there was some of that in the room. There was some old artifacts of the polarity conversation, and there was the butting heads with that, and there was some new conversations around identity and gender and sexuality. And I have to admit that expanded my capacity to hold that conversation, because I'm a relative beginner in that conversation, right? So, and I was fascinated by that. I was fascinated how it activated me. I was fascinated how it frustrated me. I was fascinated how I was like in wonder of it all. So for me, that's what made it had texture to it.
Thank you. Nice. Tim?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, George. I mean, really, we did it on purpose. We knew there would be a clash of the titans sometimes, because we knew we were bringing in powerful, experienced, brilliant leaders, and you're gonna have a lot of in the room. And and when you compare, you have someone like Alison Armstrong or Vince Chafin or you, Boyson, or Brian Reeves, or all of these different people
who were there.
And then you got Johnny Cole. So you got like the elders, and then you got Johnny's in his late 20s, and he's got his ideas. He's on fire, and so we weren't afraid of it. But there were points when we were like, okay, well, here we go.
Here's the ride.
We'll see.
Yeah, just hold on tight. And the other conversation that I'm glad came into the room, although some people thought it was a little too much, was gender identity and the other than heterosexual. I'll say it that way because there's non-binary, there's gay, there's all sorts of things that is part of the conversation for men, and for so long it hasn't been. And we welcome that, and we want that to be the expansiveness of this. Again, if we keep saying, hey, we are a big tent, so let's be big. So
thank you.
That's what I say about that.
Chris?
I'll just add a little piece because I love what both George and Tim shared. But I will say, in having a conversation with Jules, a woman who works for A Call to Men based in New York City, it's the simple thing in that room is that the questions are, and the responses to these questions are so diverse. What is it like? What does it mean to be a man?
Mm-hmm.
What is masculinity?
Mm-hmm.
What is manhood? And what is the expression of that from different human beings? So meaning the most fundamental questions are being called into question. Like man, what is it even man? Man, woman falls into a binary conversation. So what is it like to be expansive in that thinking? And for us, it's always going to be, how do we open the space for that conversation and still keep moving through a very rich program that we have? Like we all felt like we want the conversation to be there, but we're not there to solve the questions or the conversation
that's great.
that are happening. And we're just space holders, let it happen. And then encouraging people, go out, have that conversation later, get a little think tank group together, whatever you want to do. We're the space holders to help you go and do that. But we're not going to try to solve that or answer those questions fully inside the Big Tent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go
ahead, Tim. What'd you say?
Oh, I just want to say, we said to each other real early, we don't want to be old white men all wearing the same glasses and seeing the same things. So we just refuse to be that.
And we're aware of that.
Our glasses are all slightly different in this room.
Yeah,
that's right.
and and this was brought in, and I'll just bring it into the frame here too, right? Like that this is a group of white dudes, and I think white heterosexual dudes and white cisgender heterosexual dudes with a background. So like that's also in the frame, and that was brought out, and you guys actually led with it, right? You actually brought it out into the space to say, hey, here, this is also true. Yeah. And we're not going to shame ourselves, and we're not going to diminish ourselves. We're just going to own who we are in the space. And I think that was actually good. And before Chris, you even started, I was thinking unresolved. Like you guys left a whole lot of stuff unresolved. And that's kind of the point.
Right.
Is totally. That there isn't resolution to a lot of this stuff, but the discourse, right? There's an academic term. The discourse of what it is really important for our world right now.
And I just
evolution instead of resolution.
Yeah.
Nice. And evolving the conversation and being open to the conversation, right? That's what we wanted. We wanted people to be open and curious wherever they stand in their own views or values and all that. So I will say this too, that as we head into our second summit, and we had this going into our first summit, is that the three of us, there was just a synchronicity in the stars that brought us together. But believe me, Boyson, I've been leading MKP weekends for a long time, done my multicultural work a lot. And I'm looking at these two guys going, fuck, you guys are just middle-aged white guys like me, but we said we're going. So we, from the beginning, have been committed to diverse voices in the room. And we have an advisory board that has diverse, that has 2 women on it, a beautiful black man and a gay man. And so we're really trying to make sure that we're surrounding us with voices from different perspectives and different, views in life and around men's work. So that I wanted to state that because we're very aware of this kind of monolithic white cisgendered man.
And isn't it interesting that we're all getting into the room in some ways to subvert ourselves? I'm just going to subvert the hegemonic aspects that we all kind of see. In the space. So now, and I think that you introduced this, but the collective. So it wasn't just the summit. There was this whole thing that occurred and that is ongoing now called the Big Tent Collective, which brought folks from the Big Tent Summit into a kind of connective conversation space, relational space, networking space, sharing of resource space, educational space, all of these kind of things over the course of the last year. And I've been able to participate in some of those things. And you're still bringing new folks into the collective on a regular basis. So here's another bonus offer where you get to pitch it's not just the summit. So talk about the collective a little bit. You're welcome, guys. You're welcome.
Thank you. Boy, that was great tee up. Thank you. I think we're done, guys. Next question, Boyson. That was just awesome.
Well, I'll just say very quickly that we realized kind of close to the summit, as we approached the summit, that we were endeavoring intentionally to start a robust conversation. And we thought, how are we going to create a container where the conversation can continue? Because there will be people, and the conversation will continue whether we create a container for it or not. So why not make sure we can have an impact on that conversation? So we launched the collective, and to a lot of enthusiasm, thankfully, evidencing that there's a demand for continuing the conversation.
And we kind of like to call it the glue. Really, the collective is the glue between summits and even between other in-person events we might have, is keep the conversation going, keep everybody connected. So like when we head into this next, we have about 75 people in the collective. When we come into this next summit, some of those folks are really much more connected to others in the collective more deeply and already sharing resources, collaborating on projects. So it feels like, I'm hoping, feels more and more like family coming back together for an annual family reunion and a collaborative, support fest. That's the hope, is that the collective allows for that deepening of connection that then gets inspired even more at the summit, each year.
Yeah. What they said,
What they said.
I will add this, and that is, it is very, very gratifying to watch the people collaborate and get together, and that's happened many times. Some we don't get to even hear about, but there's a guy, Craig Para, and he hooked up with Mark Platten, and they did a thing together. They created a course for men together, and that happened within the first couple months of the collective, and we didn't have to even facilitate that. We just have the container. It's like, here, go for it, do it, and that makes me very excited about what this could create.
Yeah. And I have interviewed, and there have been a number of podcasts in the last year where I lead off with, here's another one of those people that I met at the Big Tent Summit.
That's great.
Including Michelle and Craig, which have been very rich conversations, have been fantastic conversations, have gotten me into other circles that I haven't had an insight into. So that's really cool. We're getting to like 39 minutes. So you just brought one into the frame, Tim, and let's see if we can throw a couple more. What are some of the successes? What are some of the outcomes post Big Tent Summit that you've seen occur as a result of the collective and this kind of group understanding expansion?
I guess I'll kick it off, and we'll come back to Tim. So I think one big one across the board is people getting on each other's podcasts that they might not have thought to ask. So not just you, Boyce, you got a bunch of folks, but others are just in our private WhatsApp group. They're saying, hey, I just had John on my podcast. And Susie, you got to check out, here's the episode. So part of that success is also having a bunch of eyeballs on it and sharing it. Not only did they meet at the Big Tent Summit and then got on each other's podcasts, but then there's a community to support. Yeah, I checked it out, or I passed it on to my, I sent that list out on my social media, or send the link out to my social media folks. Yeah. So there's that kind of very organic at that base level. And then I do know that there have been very specific, like advisory, the successes around people advising other people on some expertise that they have in, and that other people are able to execute on that. A simple one is both Tim and I have given some support to Mark Platten in a new program that he's creating, and just giving some just coaching and feedback and all that, just being part of the summit. Part of the collective. Yeah. And then even things like having, others where, like, we had a call with Rachel Sloan, who's really somewhat of an expert in YouTube and using YouTube as a way to get clients in her own way, not building it as a channel to monetize the channel, but to just get clients. And a lot of people just said that was so valuable. And I've got a lot of ideas of how to bring that into my YouTube channel. So those are just some practical examples. I know there's a lot more we're probably not even aware of.
Right? George has got one.
Yep. Here we go. You're on mute, George. Yep. Yeah, he went
muted himself.
We had a charity launch itself with and embodying its board from Big Tent people, humanmen.org, really, really beautiful purpose. So, that kind of stuff evolving from the primordial ooze of the summit is pretty exciting. And of course, the collective, by continuing the conversation, these ideas pop up and say, hey, can I get some feedback on this? And then all of a sudden you realize there are people talking about that or in that conversation already and have some experience, and it's pretty gratifying, as I think Chris said.
Nice. And I want to give a shout out, because it's coming to me now too, a call to men. That's Tony Porter and Ted Bunch's co-founders of that organization. And when Ted came to the conference last year, And he shared a bit about their new project they were launching called the State of Masculinity 2025. And in partnering with them, they actually asked up front, could we do a bunch of interviews at the summit? And we said, yeah. They brought their team, they set up an area, and they had like 20 short interviews of people that were at the summit that would have been maybe harder for them to do that and collect all that. And they're able to get it done in a day. And then what's great is him and Kimya, who's the chief marketing officer, I think as well, they're going to come out and they're actually now this year going to share all that they learned from the State of Masculinity
that's awesome.
project. And get this, and they're going to do a focus group. So they're doing part 2, not the interviews. This time they want to ask a bunch of questions, and they're going to do a classic focus group with folks from the summit that they'll do that on Sunday after the summit's over. So that's a kind of a collaborative thing that's more than just, hey, come to the summit. Like, how can we help you in projects that you're doing or what you're working on?
Cool.
Yeah.
I want to add one more thing just quickly, and the way that this has expanded and taken on a life of its own. We are in the planning stage of doing the Big Tent UK in September of this year in Cornwall. And that's just another thing. It's like, okay, we said we'd go global, and we're going global.
So it is.
So that manifestation is really something.
Let's make it more inclusive, Tim, because we're actually calling it the Big Tent Summit Europe. Big Tent Summit Europe, that's going to be held in the UK, but everybody's welcome from all those other countries in Europe. So yeah, it's like, wow, how can we engage that? And Boyson, from what's happening in the Mankind Project in Europe, there's a lot of energy, a lot of foment, a lot of excitement. So we want to be able to draw on that and go there rather than have everybody come to the US.
Nicely done. Yeah. The word that popped up is generosity, and I have definitely seen that generosity come out in the collective, the gift, right? People giving of their wisdom and giving of their expertise and giving of their voice and bringing it all together. Cool. Yeah. So as we're getting to the end of our time, what is left? Do you have any? Oh, here you go. Challenging question. It's got to be short answers. What is the intention that you personally are bringing with you to this year's Big Tent Summit?
Ooh, that's good. Tim, George, do you want to kick stall for time?
Well,
stall for time.
The intention to really anchor in the greater vision, and that is we envision a world where boys and men everywhere have the support they need to heal, grow, and thrive. That's my intention, to really anchor that in for the audience, for everybody attendee.
Yeah, and I'm going to just echo that and actually read it. So George gave a bit of our vision statement that we've just been working on. So our vision statement, I'm going to read the whole thing. We envision a world where boys and men everywhere have the support they need to heal, grow, and thrive. Those 3 words are really important to us and to the whole community. And they're all very important, distinct things of healing, growing, and thriving. We're continually growing in an empowered and trusted global community of leaders and practitioners who are committed to shaping the future of men's work. And that's my intention, is to infuse this one with that vision. And my intention is also to hold the space for more conversation, deeper conversation, edgy conversation across the full spectrum. What we see about men and masculinity and manhood, and what do I need in my freaking business to grow it to the next level? Nice. Like, that's awesome. Like that full spectrum. And so to hold the space for the full spectrum conversation.
Thank you.
And my personal intention is that when people walk into that room, whether they attended last year or not, that they immediately feel welcome and like they're at home. Like, oh, this is my tribe. Mm-hmm. Who knew? Because one of the things we talked about a lot was siloing, and how so many of us work in little spaces alone. And so my intention is to continue to break through those walls and say, hey, you're not alone.
Nice. Very good. So bigtentsummit.com. I will be the first to shout it out. bigtentsummit.com. Registration is
right.
open now. I'm registered. I know a whole bunch of other folks who are registered as well. Tim Wade, George Kansas, Chris Kyle. Last words for each of you. Chris first.
Great last words. Famous last words. Oh,
you know.
let me just check in with myself. What's coming to me is about the famous last words is all more and more of us stepping into openness, curiosity, and compassion. And that's what I'm seeking in my own life, and want more of that in men's work and more of that out in the world. So openness, curiosity, and compassion. I'm out with that. Yeah.
Tim, you.
I think my last words I told you I was sick.
That was just obscure.
I don't even know where to go with that.
Mine is really what I would just say is, how blessed are we that we get to do this?
Mm-hmm.
How is it that we get to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
George.
I'll finish with an acknowledgement of you, Boyson. Thank you for all you do. And I know that, we all have our journey, and whatever journey you went through to have the capacity to hold this, I thank you for, and we thank you for. And thanks for having us.
Yeah, here.
Thanks, guys. It's the Mankind Podcast. Come back and listen. And hey, go check out the Big Tent Summit. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Boyson. Thanks, man.
Boyson.
This has been the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. And of course, I want to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you make it a heck of a lot easier for us to let men out there in the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if you've been enjoying the music throughout this episode and all of our episodes, check out Jim, Donovan, and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. Now, the fee for this episode is simple. If you found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, remember that life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us, so long as we rip the pen out of fate's hand and become the author of our own story. So, my friend, pick up the pen, and we'll see you next week. Lots of love.
Hey, it's Boyson. On the Mankind Podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.